My
Wait,
name
wait,
is Shen.
wait, Shani. Yeah, I'll tell you to start. You can start, Shani.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Shani Kelly, and I am an education specialist at the Corporate Education and Compliance Unit of the CIPC. My guest today is Advocate Krista Clocker, who will be presenting to us on certifications, notary, and apostilled documents and reinstatements. Please remember that you are welcome to post questions pertaining to the subject matter only. Greetings, Advocate Krista.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to dive straight in. As Shani kindly included, today's webinar, I've got two main topics: the certification requirements for documents submitted to the CIPC, and then also the reinstatements of companies and closed corporations. Just a note before we start. On the practice note 2 of 22, that is the requirements that we set for our documentation. And then on reinstatements, we will be touching base on some of the issues, common challenges that are currently experienced within the process. But I would like to refer clients and yourselves, if you want more information on the reinstatements, there were previous webinars done, I think December and January. Please go to the fuller versions. These are slightly shorter due to the time constraints. All right, so let me dive in with the first one. And the first one is the Practice Note 2 of 2022, the certification requirements. So in the CIPC, as you know, certain documents, when you submit, especially ID documents and passport documents, needs to be certified a very specific way. And there are reasons for it. And the requirements are basically set out in Practice Note 2 of 2022. There has been previous, in the last decade, a few notices on it. So Practice Note 2 of 22 is basically your consolidated version of the document, the certification requirements that we look at and that we apply. In this presentation, and that's the red, I'm going to go into the concepts of certification, notary certified documents, and apostilled documents, but I'm going to do it very briefly. The content of this practice note on Practice Note 2 of 22 is not to set out the legal definitions for those ideas. And you cannot use it for legal purposes, to use it as a legal confirmation that that's what it is. It's a simplification and sometimes an oversimplification of the legal concepts in order to make it understandable for the majority of our clients as to what we are looking at in CIPC, right? So the application of Practice Note 2 of 22 is only for CIPC. It's not for the banks, it's not for SARS, it's not for the other organization, it's not for when you go and submit a document in your insurance. Always make sure with those institutions what their requirements are. So this is very specifically to the CIPC. Rizani, next. All right, so I'm not going to go through and read Practice Note 2 of 2022. It is available on the CIPC website. If you go to www.cipc.co.za, at the top you'll see a green banner. You click on legislation, and then you'll click on legislation, and then you look for practice notes, and then they're all divided into years. So Practice Note 2 of 2022. I'm going to focus predominantly on the sections to the right of the screen with the green blocks, because that is the principles that we are looking at when we process documents where certification is required. So the first thing is the certification must be dated, because the certification may not be older than 3 months. We do note, so there must be a date. Otherwise, when do we know that this document was certified? right? So it must be 3 months. We do note that some certification stamps used by Commission of Oaths do not have a automatic like stamp date, and they sometimes write it by hand. That's also acceptable as long as there is a date. Then the next thing is the certification. We're talking here about certification and not deposition. So the certification must also have a wording to say a true copy of the original, or something similar to say that it's a true copy. I know the police has this very long phrase that they use that's also acceptable. As long as it says something along the line, it's a copy of the original document, right? Again, that may be handwritten or in a stamp format. Rudani, next. Thank you. All right, so we know it must be dated and it needs to have a specific phrasing. Now, on the documents itself, a lot of documents, let's talk about an ID, the smart card, right? There's information on both sides of that card, right? And because certification is about the document, not the page on which the information appears, that smart card information, both sides of that smart card, must reflect on a single page, which is then certified by the Commissioner of Oaths. Otherwise, what happens if you take it over 2 pages, the Commissioner of Oaths certifies the second page. But remember, then he certifies the documents as per the one part of the document and not the other. And we need certification that is a true copy of the original with the set of information that's assigned to it. So ID cop smart IDs must please be on a single page. Your documents will be rejected if it's over 2 pages. Then another thing is, don't add 5 IDs, 2 IDs to a single page for certification. Each identity document or each document that must be certified must be on its own single page, and that must be certified. We are going to reject if there's 2 different IDs or passports on a single page and certified singly. We are going to reject it. 1 page per document, and the document must be certified on that single page. All right. Then the next thing is, there is some confusion about this as well, as when you need to submit a passport or an ID copy, or when we do verification. Here's the rule, right? We need to identify or apply assurance principles or procedures to the identity of people, of customers, and of directors and members that goes on to the company's registry, right? So we've got a duty to confirm the identity. So how do we assure the identity? If the person is listed with Home Affairs, DHA, then we certify against that set of the primary source of information. If the person does not reflect on DHA because it's a foreign national, then you do the foreign assurance process, because we're manually going to check the documents when you submit it via that process. Right, so there's the rule of thumb. If it's a South African citizen, then it's DHA. Right, so we confirm that as the primary. On some of the documents, our systems do not do identity verification automatically, and then you have to submit the ID document. Right, that also goes for asylum seekers, and those with residency. They have followed a procedure with Home Affairs. They are on DHA's register, therefore they don't have to submit the foreign assurance. If it's an asylum seeker that has not received their ID document because they're asylum seeking, they're still in the process of it, they need to submit the passport up until that point. So I hope that clarifies when it's what. We do get a lot of people that submit a passport for a South African citizen. No. A passport is a different type of document than an ID document. So that is the rule of thumb. And next. All right, so now we've confirmed it must be dated. It must have the specific wording. We have clarified that the document must be on a single page for certification. We've also discussed when a foreign national, when they have got an ID, a South African issued identity document, then they follow the DHA process that we have. If they have not, because they are foreign national, they don't have residency or has not or does not have followed the asylum seeker process or whatever other process set by Home Affairs, they do foreign assurance. Right. The next component is the commission of oath itself. So on the stamp or the handwritten information associated with the certification, there's certain key information that needs to be there. And as you can see, it's been highlighted. Firstly, full name and surname. We need to positively identify the person that is the commissioner of oath. Please note there is several C clocos in South Africa. There is, I'm taking myself as an example. I know there is a few C Lotters, that's my maiden surname, in the country. So that doesn't positively identify the person. Don't provide initials and the surname, full name and surname. Identification. If we cannot identify the commissioner of oath, your document is going to be rejected. Right? Again, part of identification is also a signature. Right? Everyone, signatures are regarded as unique identifiers of an individual, so it has to be signed. Then we need the business address. If something goes wrong and the integrity of the application or the integrity of the certification is put into question, the commissioner of oath is liable and responsible because he commissioned the document. So we must be able to trace the commissioner of oath, right? Therefore, we need the business address. A lot of the stamps that we are seeing does not contain an address, or it has a postal address. I'm sorry, I can't go climb into 4 million post boxes and wait to be found. It's a business physical address that is required. Again, if this stamp doesn't have it already, we know it's very costly and time consuming to update stamps. If it's handwritten with that information, and because you've got a signature there, the signature also attests to the content of the certification and the stamp itself, then that is fine as well. Then we also need to know the designation of the person that is signing as commissioner of oaths. Okay, a little bit later on, we're going to go through that. Only certain people or designations or professional designations have got automatic right of certification of documentation. But we'll go into that a little bit later. And again, it must be dated. So that must be the content of the standard commissioner of oath stamp. Full names and surname, signature, business address, designation, because we need to confirm the authority, and it needs to be dated, right? So that part, if you look at the practice note itself, that's the latter part of the content of that notice. Then we come to some slight variances. So, for example, police officials and bank officials, we need a little bit more on that regard because they use the employer's, they are employed, the employer's stamp, for example. So for police officials, it's the commission of oath requirements as above. Full names and surnames, signature, business address, designation. The designation for a police official will usually be on its rank. So therefore, in addition to for police officials, we need the rank and rank number, all right? And then the police officials usually have got like two stamps. They've got the big one with the wording on it that they sign, and then they've got the station stamp. That is fine. Again, we are looking for the content for those elements that we are looking for, right? So if it's two stamps, it's fine. It doesn't all have to be a single stamp. Then for bank officials, again, the full commission of oath requirements, and then we need the employee number and the branch address or name. Again, we need to find this official in APSA. So it's easier if it says Menlyn, we know that this person is stationed in Menlyn, we can go and find or trace the person at that. So there's the concept of it as to what we are looking for into the integrity of the Commissioner of Oath stamp and the information. Next. Right, internationally certified documents, they are slightly a little bit different, and there's a lot of confusion on these because international documents are not standard. So yes, I'm going to say it out there. Sometimes we don't know what to do with it, and we sometimes reject them unnecessarily, but we have been training the team members on the certification requirements, and also the rule of thumb in CIPC, if you're in doubt, escalate up the chain to get confirmation. But please note, international certified documents are trickier, and there is a slight risk of an erroneous rejection of it. So please, when you are dealing with your customers, if you're an intermediary for services with the CIPC, please ask them to do one of the others that are more easily identifiable. We do know that certain documents costs and some jurisdiction costs can add additional steps and delays because appointments have to be made, etc. Please bear that in mind, and also bear in mind that we are looking for key information on the documentation, and international documents are more tricky because they are not standard. So please, if your client has got an option, please try to use the options that are more easily recognizable by CIPC staff members. It's going to reduce the risk of rejections. Then another key thing is language. Rizani, just one back. We have received complaints that we reject documents, but when we look at the documents, it's in a foreign language. The information, because we assure the content of the document and an assurance regarding the certification requirements, if it's not in English, we would not know what it is. We would not know that it is a notary. We would not know that it's a certification. We had a case whereby the stamp was in Mandarin. Now, for all intents and purposes, this can be like a voluntary association of wheel alignment. A little bit tongue-in-cheek. We would not know. So it must be in English. I know that certain professions were very upset about it because it adds an additional layer of effort from their clients. But the problem is, how are we to assure if it's not in English? English is the business language of the South African government. If it's done in another language, then we need a translation provided with that document that we know what it is. Okay. So language, English, anything else we are going to reject because we can't assure the content that's presented to us. Thank you, Ritani. Next. So that is the elements that we are looking for. I hope it clarifies as to when you submit a document that's certified to the CIPC that you know what to look out for. All right, I'm going to repeat it. I know it may be excessive, but please, these are literally, this is the common mistakes. And then we get inquiries. And once we get to the inquiry, the client's already frustrated because we've got high volumes of incoming matters. Then we look at it and then we see these components are missing. So it must be dated. The wording must be there. The Commissioner of Oath must have full names and surnames. He or she must be identifiable. There must be a signature. It must be traceable. We need a business address. We need the authority, meaning the designation. If it's a bank employee, we need the branch name or branch code with the employee number. If it's a police official, then we need their rank and their rank number and also their station information in order to trace them. So those are the elements that we are looking for. All right, so now let's quickly go into some definitions and concepts of what is certification, notary certified documents, and apostilled documents. Again, these are just high-level things, concepts. It's not to provide a legal definition, but to have an indication of what these things are. I am going to say here, I have not provided samples of certification or a notary or apostille document in this presentation because it contains personal information of the Commissioner of Oath or the Notary Republic, and I don't want that information to be in the public domain. So there is no examples of how this looks like. Please apply the principles that I'm trying to set out. All right, so what is certification? I'm basically going to read this. So a Commissioner of Oath takes responsibility for a document that is certified by confirming that, one, the document is a true copy of the original, and two, that the person whose ID or signature of an affidavit appeared to him or her in person. So I'm an advocate, so I have got automatic certification rights. So when I'm presented with a document, the person whose document it is appears in front of me, and I compare the original document, let's say it's an ID document, and the copy that is provided. I check that it looks correct. I certify it. I attest to that it is a true copy of the original that's been presented to me on a specific date. If any fraud is taken place on this document on which the certification has happened, the Commissioner of Oath that certified the document can be held liable personally as they confirm to the correctness of the document. So that's why we need the authority, we need to identify the person. So, because if a certification is not done correctly, it brings the whole application into question. All right. Another clear thing that's in the legislation, the Commissioner of Oath may not commission or certify a document that he or she has an interest in. Okay. So I know there's rules surrounding it and it's applied slightly different. So basically, I cannot certify my own ID document. I cannot certify that or a document of my children because I've got an interest in that certification. So there must be some level of independence on the certification. We are picking up that people, remember, we see these things so many automatically in our brains. Our information is stored as to what is correct or not, or that we have seen this address before, but the signature doesn't match that. And then we'll go and inspect and go look for the documents. So try to avoid that you commission, if you are 5 people in an office, that you commission each other's documents. In the CIPC, we do not allow family members or spouses to certify documents. So we are picking up that if the surname of the Commissioner of Oath is the same as the surname of the person whose ID is presented, it rings a bell with us and we will reject. So we're trying to put some sort of level of independence in the certification of the documents. So please don't certify, for purpose of the CIPC, please don't certify family members or your own documents and try to submit. We are going to reject it. We have also picked up recently, and we have contacted the Commissioner of Oaths. We identified that his or her stamp was used, and the signature was not his or hers on the stamp itself. We actually raised it with this Commissioner of Oaths and asked the person to correct it. We notified them, and we've got a response back. So we do. Over time, we do realize the big intermediaries, we do tend to recognize your signature and your structure. So please don't certify documents that you've got an interest in. Next. All right, certification in South Africa. So who can certify documents in the South African context? Remember, this is unique. Every country has got their slight own variation of certification. So the first page is basically just an overall high level. So in the South African context, you can certify any person who has been appointed as a Commissioner of Oath by the Department of Justice, or certain people have got it automatically based on their professional designations or the type of work that they are doing. All right, so for example, of persons who has it is police officials, an attorney, a notary republic, an accountant, an advocate, certain individuals in a clerical position in the South African Post Office, a clerk of the court. Automatically, when we have that designation or that position, it comes with that position. Right. But it does not stop another person. So, for example, in the CIPC, we have got staff members in our paper-based disclosure unit that also certify documents. They specifically have to go to the Department of Justice and actually get authority to commission documentation. So that will be ex officio, for example. So people that doesn't fall under those designations or professions or positions can apply to the Department of Justice for the rights in order to do certification and to be a commissioner of oaths. Next slide. All right, so again, certification at the CIPC. Again, wording must be there. The person must be identifiable. The commissioner of oath must be traceable. We need to know the designation, and there needs to be a date. So here's now the common challenges that we experience by CIPC on the certification of documents. We only see the surname instead of the full names and surnames. As stated, there are more than one C. Cloco in South Africa, and there's more than one C. Lotter, etc. So we need full names and surnames. It must be, a lot of times these stamps are illegible. Literally, we cannot see the phrasing, the date, or the identification. So when you scan, or make sure that the stamp is clear, not smudged that we can't see the wording, or too light that we cannot make it out when it's scanned. So when you've scanned it, make sure that everything is visible. There's no address, no business address. Sometimes we get a postal address. Again, a lot of postal addresses are being phased out. It's difficult to trace a person on a post box. We want the physical address. Documents are not on a single page, and a lot of times people forget to date the document. So please check for those common elements. Rizani, next page. All right, so we've done now certification. So we're quickly going to delve into notary certified documents. So a notary public, it's often referred to simply as a notary, is an individual officially licensed by a governmental body to perform specific action related to legal matters or documents. So this is a very specialized area. These people actually write special exams, and especially in the South African context, they write a special exam, a very difficult exam, as to what must be the content of certain legal documents. You all may know when you actually buy a house, your documents must go through a notary. It's because all of these documents must be inspected. There's certain legal requirements that has to be met with these documents. Right, so a role of a notary public is usually a specialist attorney who possesses in-depth knowledge on certain legal acts and the prescribed process surrounding those documents. So a notary is legally empowered to officially witness signatures, take statements, certify the validity of a document. They also just do not certify that the document is a true copy of the original. Remember, with the certification, the Commission of Oath confirms that the person standing in front of them, it's their document, and the document was actually presented to them before they certify the copy. Right? So a notary has got an additional level, but it's also they've got the additional duty that the person standing in front of them is who they say they are. So there's an additional layer of authentication that goes into a notary document. So because of this, that the notary has confirmed that I'm going to now pick on Rizani, that Rizani is standing in front of me. Rizani provided his proof of address, his identity document, and then the document is presented, and then he certifies the document. So there's additional level of it. So it's a higher level of evidentiary weight that it carries, and it also comes usually with a little bit of a price tag. All right, next page. So notary in South Africa, it's usually an attorney that is admitted to the High Court that is a notary republic. So I'm not going to go into that. So when we get a notary document, or when a document is notarized, there's usually a notary stamp or seal on the document that comes with it. And it also confirms the notary's credential. So a lot of times when the notary documents that we see, it can come into a single page, especially foreign documents. They usually have got a credentials page, and then the certification or the notary of the document. So notaries usually come into 2 pages, sometimes 1, but 2 pages, and it's got a seal on it. So that seal can either be electronic or an actual seal. We do sometimes see some notaries use an embossed seal, but the embossed seal you can't see when the document is scanned. So the seal, if you're going notary, must be clearly visible, because that's the key component that we are looking at. Next. Okay. So notary in CIPC, when it's notary, again, there must be the word true copy of the original or something similar. The notary republic must be identifiable, full names and surnames and signature. The person must be traceable, address, physical, not postal. It must say the authority, in this case, or the designation. This time it will say notary or notary republic. The seal must be present, and there needs to be a date. Common challenges with notary documents is the seal is illegible, or it's in a foreign language that we cannot know that it is actually what it says it is. Okay. Again, anything in another language other than English, we need a translation to go with it. Thank you. Next page. So apostille documents are a little bit more intense. This is now the next type one. We do get them as well, and they do pose a level of trickiness for us. So I'm quickly going to go through what it is. So the purpose in apostille, sorry, I still struggle to pronounce the word, so my apologies if I pronounce it incorrectly, is specifically used for documents that needs to be recognized internationally. It verifies the authenticity of a public document issued in one country and intended for the use in another country, right? This is actually governed by the Hague Convention of 1968, to which South Africa is a signatory. And in the CIPC, when it's a foreign national that submits documents for our purposes, we don't fall back on apostille documents. You can provide it, but we don't require it, because for us, certification is sufficient for the purposes that we have. But if you do an apostille document, that's also fine, right? So the competent authority in the country of origin where the document was issued provides an apostille certificate. Basically, it verifies the legitimacy of the person signing the document and the official stamp or seal on it. So the apostille document is it's almost like a letter that states out, I, XYZ, in the following capacity, has got the authority to confirm that this document originates from the following country, and it's signed, the person is traceable, identifiable, it's dated. And then attached to that is the document itself. So we do get that as well. So that's how it looks like. We do not require apostille documents for foreign nationals. It's just it's a very heavy weight, an administrative burden to get an apostille document. Next. All right, so I trust that although I may have repeated myself, I hope it's clear as to what we are looking for in the certification documentation. What do we look for in notary documents that has been notary certified, as well as the apostille documents, right? Again, the principles is continuously the same. Apply the principles and it should be fine. Right, so let's dive into reinstatements. As stated before, we did do a few presentations to the run-up of the big final deregistration of January 2024. Please go back to the CIPC's YouTube channel for those videos for more detail. Okay, so I'm not going to go back into the full details, but the reinstatements that I'm going to provide is more general and not specifically to that batch of final deregistrations. Right. So who can apply for reinstatement? Any finally deregistered company or closed corporation can be reinstated. The requirements are the same, whether it was a voluntary deregistration or an annual return deregistration, it doesn't matter, the requirements are the same, right? We did do in January of 2024, we deregistered about 1.7 million companies and closed corporations for non-compliance with annual returns. And of course, beneficial ownership declaration and the non-filing of financial information. So if you are finally deregistered due to annual returns, it will say AR final deregistration, right? How to determine your status and the date that you were finally deregistered, you go to the BIS profile, www.bisportal.gov.za, you log in, you go to BIS portal and you search either by name or registration number of the company. The status will reflect there as final deregistered or AR finally deregistered or in reinstatement, whatever the status on the record is. If you go to the history component of the screen, so when you do a BIS profile search, you'll get the general information, directors, etc., and then you get a history component. So if you go to the history component, it will list every time that there was a change taken, and you can determine from there. Right. Very important to confirm your status before you conduct something with the CIPC. You cannot reinstate a company or close corporation if it's not finally deregistered. There's reasons for it. Right. So, yes. Please note that this is applicable to companies and closed corporations only, not to cooperatives. Next page. Okay. You are now finally deregistered, or you suspect that you are finally deregistered, or you suspect that your client is finally deregistered. Again, what now? Firstly, confirm the status of the company or closed corporations. If AR final deregistered or deregistered, you can apply for reinstatement. If there's any other status, you cannot apply for reinstatement. Reinstatement is reserved for companies that has been removed from the registry, their legal personality has been removed and wants to reinstate and reconduct business, right? Or rather continue with their business activities. So reinstatement is only if finally deregistered. The second thing that you need to go and determine is whether there was economic value in the name of the business, not the name of you as the director, in the name of the business, and you can prove that there was economic value in the business at the time of deregistration. If there was economic value, you can reinstate. If not, it's advisable that you register a new company. And there's reason for this. We do not put companies and closed corporations that were not doing business back on the registry. The reason being is that we don't want dormant entities reflecting as active. Our information that we hold as the CIPC are used as a baseline for economic decision-making, for people considering doing business activities with an entity, right? And if you're not active, then you should not be on the registry, right? Rather come back if your business were not doing business and you want to reinstate, but you still haven't commenced your business activities. Don't reinstate or register then. Wait until you've got your business opportunity and then either reinstate, not reinstate because you were not in business at the time of deregistration, then apply for a new company registration, right? We don't want to, if you are dormant or you don't have a business opportunity and you register, and there's no activities, you tend to land up more into compliance challenges of things that you have to comply with, but you're not doing business, or you're not active, or you don't have an opportunity. Rather wait until you've got the opportunity and then register. It's a quick process if you do the short standard private company or NPC. Next. All right. If you were finally deregistered, we have an administrative protection for 6 months after final deregistration. While we're hitting The date range for final deregistration was 25 to 29 January. So that 6-month administrative protection is going to fall away in the next couple of days. So the aim of this is that because people do tend to come back onto the registry, when you are finally deregistered, your name the company name becomes available in the available pool of names for other companies to come and reserve it. So now you were finally deregistered. Somebody else came innocently enough. Not everything has got malicious intent. You reserve another person reserves the company name. Now you reinstate. Now you realize, but oh gosh, we've got two businesses with similar names in the same area that is causing confusion. So we try to limit that by the administrative protection, but that will be lapsing in the next couple of days. So if in the case you reinstate, remember when you reinstate a company or closed corporation, the law and case law clearly state it is as if you were never deregistered, right? So it's almost like taking an eraser and wiping out that period of final deregistration. If somebody did come and register a name, then you have to go to the company's tribunal, and the company's tribunal have to decide who's got the strongest right to that name, and they follow a set of case law in order to make that determination. Right? So if you have reinstated or reinstating in the future and somebody else has came into the in between, you need to go to the company's tribunal in terms of Section 160 of the Companies Act. CIPC do not have the authority to deal with name disputes. Another thing on final deregistration, some people make a deposit into a customer code and then think that is sufficiently enough to file an annual return. It is not. A mere deposit is not filing. So if you've made a deposit, you've not actually filed the annual returns, you were finally deregistered. Now you're sitting in the situation, you've got money in your account. You could either reinstate, if you meet the requirements, so then you can use that money in the account to reinstate, or then you can use that fund money in order to register a new company. And if there's anything left over or you don't want to register a new company, you do not want to reinstate, then you request a refund from our finance department. Next. All right. Let's say, for example, you're finally deregistered and you did not get your notices. Remember, in terms of an annual return deregistration, there's specific legal notices that we issue. The first one is a call 40.3. If there's still no response, we issue a call 40.4, and then we finally deregister, a final deregistration notice. Okay. If you have not received any of those letters as a active director of the company or closed corporation, or you've not received your AR reminder, it means that we don't have your correct cell phone number or email address on our records. We need the contact details of you as the director or the member, not that of your service provider. So please, and service providers or intermediaries, do not put your contact details on for your clients. Remember, people move on, they use the services of other people, then your contact details are actually on our registry, and we will keep sending it out to you. Meantime, this company is no longer your customer, and they do not come and update us either. So please do not use your own email addresses. Use the correct email and cell phone number of the directors. Ultimately, it's the directors and the members of closed corporations that are liable and responsible for compliance, not service providers or intermediaries. We hold the directors accountable. The impact is on the directors and their companies, not necessarily on their service providers. If you have not gotten these documentation after reinstatement, update, and always make sure that we've got the right contact details for directors and members. You use a Core 39 or CK2 process for it. Okay. This is key. We have got so many complaints of people saying, oh, but I trusted my service provider, my accountant to do this for me. No, it's your responsibility as the directors to make sure that you do your compliance. Your business is your baby. It's your child. Nurture it. We celebrate birthdays of our children. Celebrate the birthday of your business, the anniversary of your business, by actually diarizing the filing of your documentation. Please look after your business's compliance, and non-compliance can land you up into serious problems, cost you serious money, not just with the CIPC, but also with other institutions. So please diarize the birthday of your businesses. My apologies for that ring. All right, next page. Okay, so now let's get to the reinstatements. Next page. All right, again, I'm repeating a lot of this because I am principle-based, and we need to apply principles and thinking processes, not tick boxes. All right, so reinstatement requirements, confirm the status. First one. Second, must have economic value on date of final deregistration. So you need to determine the economic value at the time of deregistration. Then you go and prepare your documentation. And I know so these are the three big items for rejections. It's the wrong status, or there's no economic value, and then the proofs. So there's a list of examples of proof that you can submit for economic value. Bank statement is the most common evidence. If there's a movable property, that's a windy search or letters from the land registry. If there are IP rights, trademarks, for example, extract from the trademark registry that confirms that it's actively still an active registered trademark. If there are shares, we need a letter from the issuer of the shares that the company or closed corporation hold those shares. The deregistered company cannot say a letter on itself that I own shares in Green Apple Trading, for example. Green Apple Trading needs to write the letter and confirm that there was shares, and an extract of the share registry to confirm. There's outstanding liabilities, for example, letters or notifications from SARS that there's still tax owable, or there's a refund due, or a rebate. Can be a letter from a bank to say that, listen, there's outstanding liabilities, etc. So any outstanding liabilities at the date of final deregistration, it's sufficient. There's a lease agreement, or there's assets in the name of the company. Again, in the name of the business itself. Green Apple Trading, if the car that is used to transport like flower, let's say, for example, it's a florist, the car that is used to deliver flowers is not in the name of Green Apple Trading, how can we confirm it? So directors and members must be very careful. Don't take on the liability or contract of your business in your personal name. Ideally, it needs to be in the name of your company. So that asset must be in the name of the company or CC that needs to be reinstated. That can be a car, then the statement of the financier, or a confirmatory letter or notice from the Department of Transport, anything of that nature. So these are some of the examples of proof that can be provided. Next. All right. Again, principle. Proof must originate from an independent third party to the company or closed corporation. Right? You cannot attest to your own liability. We need an external or third party to confirm that there is a liability or that there is evidence, etc. If you need clarification, please log an inquiry on that mailbox. I know customers are very frustrated, and we in CIPC as well, without the online inquiry system. It helped to organize and provide transparency into inquiries. We were able to do reports. Now it's all running in emails. We're receiving same email gets sent to 5 people, and 5 people need to attend, and it's really messy at the moment. So please be patient. Got good news on that. We are busy in the procurement cycle for another online inquiry system. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have another online inquiry management system to help us to navigate and order and then to provide. We do put focus as an organization, even though it's emails. We try to, as best as we can, in order to monitor the mailboxes, but it's just too many. It slows down our mailboxes, etc. So please be patient. We are trying our best to get to all our inquiries as efficiently as possible. And I do admit that it's not always possible. Then just another little bit of good news on the letters. In the next couple of weeks, we are going to start testing, as from tomorrow, an online facility for you to download the AR deregistration letters yourselves. If you are a director, if you are the accounting officer or the company secretary. So we will be providing that. In the next couple of weeks. We're going to go into our testing cycle for it before release in the next week. So that will become available very shortly. Please note, if you're not an active director or the active auditor or company secretary, you will not be able to access that information, but you can require then your clients to go and download them themselves from those portals. We'll issue the notifications as to how it's going to work and the release dates in the next week or so. So I hope that is going to address a lot of the inquiries that we get into this area, is that confirmation. So we're busy with a bit of good news. Next slide, please. All right, who may apply for reinstatement? This is another tricky one that we're dealing with, and it requires a little bit of explanation. So Section 82.4 of the Companies Act says that any interested person may apply for the reinstatement of a company or closed corporation on the conditions that the Commission has set. All right. But it's a little bit trickier than that. If you read further into the Companies Act and the regulations, you have to file outstanding annual returns. You need to file beneficial ownership declaration, file AFS and FAS, right? So when you have to file the annual return, the BO and the AFS, you need to have information and a mandate to file it. So therefore, it's basically only the companies, the CCs, and the duly appointed representatives that can actually apply for reinstatement, right? So a third party like SASH or the bank cannot apply for reinstatement because they do not have the information for the annual return, the BO, the AFS, to complete the reinstatement process. So although Section 82.4 clearly states any interested party, if you read through the further conditions in the Companies Act, it becomes a problem. They will not be able to file. If a third party does file annual returns, beneficial ownership, or AFS on behalf of a company for which they do not have a mandate, that is fraud. And in terms of the Companies Act, submitting fraudulent information is a criminal offence. So that's why it's only the companies or CCs and their representatives that can actually apply for reinstatement. Any third parties must apply then to court in order to override this. If you are a third party that is applying to court, also make sure when you ask for your court order that you clearly state that the company or CC is mandated to file all of that information. Otherwise, what's going to happen if the court order doesn't mandate the company or CC to comply, those compliance requirements are still reflecting as outstanding. So although we reinstate upon the court order, within 2 to 3 weeks, the company are back into ARD registration for non-compliance with all of these provisions. So I hope that just clarifies a little bit as to who can do it and then apply to court, and who must apply to court and why. Next slide. All right, steps for reinstatement. Just to make it a little bit easier, step 1, determine the status. Step 2, assess whether there's economic value. Step 3, source all the required documentation and information. Right? That includes the reinstatement, the annual return, the AFS, FAs, and the beneficial ownership information. Remember, you will not be able to get to the annual return unless all these other matters are also been filed. Step 4, deposit your 200 Rand into your account. Make sure it reflects in your account before you send the email. Also make sure, especially those that are intermediaries that submit multiple documents every single day, make sure that you have a minimum 200 Rand at any given point in time when you're applying for reinstatement or for any match, for any document that has a fee associated with it. The reason being is that because as soon as every email, every application that we get into the reinstatement mailbox is converted into an electronic image, the system, we don't print, it converts it to an image. That then gets queued. So your email gets queued, converted into an image, then it gets queued into another system for indexing and tracking. And then as the team members start going out from the oldest applications, we don't always know when the team member will reach your specific application for tracking and indexing. And when they reach it and you don't have sufficient funds, your documents cannot be going into the next step, so it gets rejected from there. Again, you can always check. I know the billing component for the indexing is a little bit problematic because there's no automatic replies out of that system. Continuously check on BIS portal whether it has been deposited or not, or been tracked or not. All right, then you've now deposited. You've got the minimum fee in your customer code. Then you email the application with all the supporting documents as a single email. Please don't submit multiple emails and think we are going to combine it. The system cannot combine it. As stated before, our system converts the email with its attachments into a single image that gets pushed through the application. We don't print and push the paperwork anymore. It's an image. So if you submitted multiple emails, the images are incomplete. Right? So we may convert the one where it's the 40.4 that allows us for billing, but it's going to get rejected because the other piece of information is not on that single image. Right. Another thing is, please do not put WinZip files in there. Emails, Excels, Word. The system can only convert attachments that's in PDF into an image. It cannot open up links, cannot convert the Word or the Excel into that image. So if your application has been in any of the other unallowed formats, again, your application may either be incomplete or not complete at all. Right, so now you've emailed it. It was a single email with all attachments in PDF. Now we have processed it. We have sent you a confirmation that happiness. We've confirmed all of it. We've put you back into business. Into reinstatement process. Step 6 is now you have to file all the outstanding annual returns, AFS and FAS, and the beneficial ownership information. You have got 30 business days in order to do that. Otherwise, you're going for final deregistration again, and you have to start over. We are starting to receive complaints of people saying, but I can't file my annual returns, but I've been reinstated. When we check, they've exceeded the 30-day business period. The annual returns, AFS and BO, must be filed within 30 business days from the date that we've put the company into reinstatement process. Otherwise, you start from scratch. Right? It's a new application. You're going to pay again. You'll have to make sure that your ID documents are recertified and go through all of those steps. So please comply within 30 business days with all the other information sets. Once you've filed all the annual returns, the BOs, the AFS, and the status is back in active, in business, please update the director information with the latest addresses, cell phone numbers, again, of the directors and the members, not the intermediaries or the service providers. Right. So those are your steps for reinstatement. Next. All right. If it's a court order, it goes to corporate legal services at cipc.co.za for service and recordal. Advise that court order must also mandate company or close corporation to bring all obligations up to date within a period of time, failure of which the company or close corporation will again be placed into AR deregistration for non-compliance. So your court order must mandate that company to comply with the other obligations in terms of the Companies Act. Next. Just some resources regarding reinstatement. All the information is there. Again, there's a whole bunch of webinars as well on the CIPC YouTube channel. Please go through that as well. Next. All right, for beneficial ownership, there's also some information and more stuff. There's been a lot of webinars on BO. Please refer to that sources as well on the component of the AR filing and the BO filing. Next. Please note these are not complete lists. There's annual returns. It's been updated, the step-by-step guide to make provision for the BO filing, the mandatory BO filing. So there is the guide. There's also been webinars on annual returns as well. Again, the YouTube channel. Next. All right, so some common reasons for non-processing of reinstatements. Yes, and there's a reason why we're mentioning it, and that's the reason why we've issued a notice about 2 weeks ago, because we keep getting high volumes of incoming reinstatements and a lot of frustrated customers. And then I went and checked and did a bit of an analysis, and these are the things that I found, or from the experience of the escalations that I get. These are the most common reasons for non-processing. All right. Total application size exceeds 6 megabytes. Right. So if you email to reinstatements@cipc.co.za and it exceeds that size, the system cannot accept it in order to create the email or to receive the email and then convert it into an image. So therefore, when we get an inquiry, we will see, there's nothing in the processing mailbox. That is because of it. Some people also forget to attach certain documents, then it goes into a little subfolder. Please, the limitation is 6 megabytes. If your documents are bigger than that, don't zip it. Again, our systems cannot read zip files. You will have to go and re-look at the content, make sure that you've only got the relevant parts needed. I'm not picking on the attorneys, but attorneys love to put like a 200-page document as evidence. It's not necessary. Give us the minimum that is needed to make that decision. Please do not scan in color. Black and white is sufficient. Just make sure that everything is legible. So, cannot exceed 6 megabytes. Insufficient funds in the customer. I've explained that as well. A lot of time people make the deposit, but because we are struggling to get through the volumes of applications that needs to be indexed, by the time that we reach your application, that 200 Rand that you've deposited was used for something else, and then we reject. So please, if you are an intermediary or a service provider, check your, I know it's frustrating. Please make sure that you keep a minimum of 200 Rand, or just plan a little bit ahead to make sure that you've got sufficient of everything for the matters that you're planning on submitting. Customer code is illegible. Yes, zeros and noughts. We can't always distinguish what is a 0 and a naught, and then on the customer code, and then because we type in the wrong one into the system don't find the customer code, and then we reject. And small caps, L's, I's, and ones. Please make sure that your zeros are clearly reflected as a 0 or an O, an L, an I, and a 1. Right, so please make sure that it's clear. Sometimes as well, the company name and the registration number does not match on the core 40.4, or they put in the previous name. There may have been occurred a name change without realizing they forgot to actually indicate the correct name or the latest name, and then the registration number does not match. We're also going to reject. We're trying to delay because we need to make sure that we process the right information against the right companies. We use both of them. It needs to match, please. Next. All right, some or all of the attachments are not in PDF. Again, the system only accepts PDF. No JPEGs, no WinZip, no Word, no Excel, no links that need to be downloaded. We are, as the CIPC, we are constantly being attempted for hacking. It's a daily occurrence for us. So we do not download from OneDrive. And also, this is a system that reads your email to convert into an image. That system cannot go open up your link and go download your documents. And also, we don't download from unknown sources as well. So please don't provide links in. And also, everything must be in PDF. Right? Again, submit. The application is submitted in multiple emails. Again, it must be a single email because we convert it into an image. I cannot stress that enough. Those are the most common challenges and misconceptions that there is regarding our systems. Another one is identity documents do not comply with the requirements of Practice Note 2 of 22. Link. We just went through it. Again, there's the link of it. I'm not going to go through the requirements again. I think I've repeated myself. And I think if we were in an open space, you would have started throwing things at me as to what these things are that we look at in the Commission of Oaths. Right, then the next one is poor scanning, quality of scans. Again, sometimes the scanning is so bad that we literally cannot make out on the ID copy what is the name. The face is blurred. We literally cannot read it. The other thing that also happens is a lot of time people take a picture or they still fax. These things create like background noise on the document that sometimes can impact on the quality. So please make sure that you've got a good quality scan that meets the 6 megabytes requirements and that's easily readable. Then the other one, there's no mandate. So if a service provider submits on behalf of the company or close corporate, we need a mandate that authorizes that person to submit. But that's also very important. It's even in our regulations and act that if it's somebody submits on behalf of somebody else, we need to confirm that the person has the authority to submit. So we need a mandate in that cases. Next. All right, then insufficient evidence that the company or close corporation was conducting business. I'm not going to go through that again. It's basically a repeat of what I stated before. Evidence again, because why? The principle that we have that we comply against, we don't want to put dormant companies' theses on the registry. They pose a risk for being used for money laundering and terror funding and fraudulent activities. So we do check that they've got economic value. So that is the principle for reinstatement. Next. All right, and then just some more incidental information. Okay, this is also a little bit of more common misconceptions. For example, payment of annual returns must happen with the filing of the annual return. A mere payment does not constitute filing. We still have a lot of customers that believe that because they've paid, they've made the deposit, that their filing has occurred. In terms of the Companies Act, a filing is only valid if CIPC has received the filing with the payment, if there's payment. If either one of the two is missing, it's not a valid filing in terms of the Companies Act. So let's say, for example, you have filed annual returns for those that are intermediaries and service providers. You have filed the annual returns for your client, but not the beneficial ownership declaration. Please file that separately via the standalone function. Your client and these businesses can be investigated for non-compliance with BO. Right, next. All right, because BO is now hard stopped into annual returns, if you are stopped on the BO side of the filing, please, you need to relate your inquiry to the beneficial ownership unit. There's their contact, refer to that link to get to the notice so that you can get the right contact details for the corporate legal department. It goes to them. All right, then we have already discussed, there's the date, so it's 23, so it's just lapsed. Right, so the administrative protection for name reservations that we've put in place, that will be lapsing now. So your names are now becoming available for the use or reservation by others. Again, if there is a name objection, please, that needs to go to the company's tribunal, not the CIPC. Next. Refunds and deposits, there we go. That's where you refer it to. And then if there's technical questions on AFS, that needs to go to their department, as not the annual return unit. We are not experts in financial accounting and financial statements in terms of the Companies Act. Next. All right, we're now coming to the latter part of the presentation. Again, for those that are new or doing their own compliance work, how do you stay in the know? Please follow us on any of our social media platforms. We do post on a daily basis. So Meta or Facebook, there is a lot of posts. LinkedIn is slightly less, so decide which, and Twitter or X, decide which platform suits you the best. All of our information, new requirements, new implementations, invites to webinars, all happening on those social media platforms. So please follow that. You can also visit the CIPC website regularly. All the notices are published there, etc. Again, check your company status on a regular basis via the BIS portal. And please do our CIPC Online Director course. It's free of charge. There's the link. It will tell you basically what is your compliance obligations, how does the Companies Act work, what do you need to look out for if you are a director or even a member of a closed corporation. So please do that online training course. It's going to help you a lot to understand your obligations. Next. All right, further, CIPC is not the record keeper of companies and closed corporations. The company or closed corporation themselves are the record keeper. Please keep your records. If you use a service provider, the service provider needs to provide your documents to you unless they are the authorized location of company records on the CIPC registry. Keep track of your welcome letter, your registration certificate, all filing confirmations, financial records, minutes of meetings, share registers. The company is supposed to keep it, not the CIPC. We keep it because certain information must be filed with us because we are the custodian of the registry of corporate entities in the country, and the information has got value for others. So we only collect the information that is of value that needs to be made publicly available for other people. Right, so financial record, minutes of meetings, share registers, all of that, you need to keep it. Next. Right, there's just the link again for the Learn iBiz, for that online training course for directors. Next. And I think we are done. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that has been insightful. And if you had any challenges with certification or reinstatements, that this may have been assistance to you as to clarify what is the common challenges that you have been experiencing in order to help you to actually submit the documentation correctly in order not to be frustrated or experience unnecessary rejections. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Advocate Clocker. We really appreciate that very informative webinar. You are welcome to post your questions on the chat box and we will answer it timelessly. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.